Hi guys, I'm going to go through task 233, which is basically this most tricky solving quadratic equations by factorizing Hegarty task. And the reason it's so tricky is because that there are extra things that you need to do at the start, because you need to make your quadratic into the standard form, which looks like this. So I will try very hard to always remember to take this window off. Not take me off, but to take this window off. And yeah, so what do I mean by the standard way we write a quadratic equation? So you want it written in the form something times x squared plus something times x plus something. And okay, maybe b or c might be 0, right? There might not be a b, there might not be a c. Or the pluses could be a minus, right? But the standard form here is like this: something x squared, something x plus something equals 0, right? This is the standard form for a quadratic. Right, this by itself is called the standard form. If you watch my previous video on how to complete the square, you'd have learned that there are 3 ways you can write a quadratic. They're all called different forms. The first is written like this. So everything expanded, no brackets, basically. Another way is factorize. So when you factor it into the product of 2 linear expressions, so a bracket times a bracket, like x plus something, x plus something. And then the final way is in what's called vertex form, when you complete the square. So what you want in order to solve a quadratic equation is, well, hopefully it's already given to you looking like this, but if it's not, there's some work to do first. You need to make it look like this, and then go from there, right? You might be able to factorize it, or you might have to do something a bit more complicated, which of course we will talk about, but not right now. So yeah, this is why this task is a bit more tricky. Because if you look at this question, so I'll take a screenshot, I'll put it into my PowerPoint, and then I'll get this window off. Right, so you can see it. So if you look at this, it's not in the same format. It doesn't equal 0 for a start. It needs to equal 0. This is how you begin to solve a quadratic equation. You need to make it equal 0. Well, this one's not too bad. We just take away 10 from both sides. So I'll do x squared minus 3x minus 10. I'm taking away 10 from both sides, and I make that equal 0. Okay, and then because I know it's a quadratic equations by factorizing, I can assume it's going to quite easily factorize. So it's going to be a double bracket, still equals 0, and then x and x, and I guess minus 5 and plus 2. So because minus 5 times 2 is minus 10, and minus 5 add 2 is minus 3. So x is either 5 or x is minus 2. So I'm going to do that now. So bring this back. 5 or minus 2. Right, great. So we'll do the same thing with this one. Hide that window. Right. So again, this is a quadratic equation. It's got an x and an x squared and a number, right? So it's like, okay, it's going to be a quadratic equation, but it's not written equals 0. And actually, there's something else we might like to do. It's not very nice to solve a quadratic with a minus in front of the x squared. Okay, we much prefer it if it's a positive number in front of the x squared, such as positive 1. So what I might actually do for this one is actually add x squared and take away 10x. So I would be left with 0 on that side, and then when I add x squared to both sides, it will become x squared minus 10x and then it's still positive 21, so plus 21. And then remember what we do like to write it equals 0, so we like to write it that way around. Not that it matters, but it's just like the standard way you write a quadratic equation. And then, what's this? X minus 7, x minus 3. Because it's got a times to make positive 21, but add up to make a negative, so they both have to be minus numbers. And it's got to be minus 7 and minus 3 in order to get this combination. So x is either 7 or x is 3. Okay, next one. Okay, so again, this is a quadratic equation, but it is not written in this standard format where it's something x squared plus something x plus something equals 0. This is so important to learn that you have to make it equal 0 before you get started. It's like the steps you do before you really get started, if that makes sense. You do a bit of tidying, you prepare it. Okay, it's like preparing it to be able to be solved. That's the idea. So in this question, okay, we'll take away 1. So 6x squared plus x, take away 1 equals 0. And then, well, it's either got to be 6x and x, or it's got to be 3x and 2x. And then, well, we can check, can't we? This is either minus 1 and plus 1. I don't see how we're going to get a plus x if we use this one, so I don't think it can be this one. We're going to have a plus a 3x and a minus a 2x. So it's got to factorize like this, right? If you look, 3x times 2x is 6x squared. Minus 1 times 1 is minus 1. And here I'll have 3x take away 2x. So this is where my plus x comes from. So it definitely factorizes like this. Now obviously I've done that quite quickly there. It might take you a little bit longer to do that if you're not confident with doing that, and that's fine. There's not really a fast way of doing it. There's just how much of you practice this, because you will get faster the more you practice. So anyway, either 3x minus 1 is 0, which would make x be a third, or 2x plus 1 is 0, which would make x be minus a half. So we're going to have to put that in to our Hegarty. So 1 over 3. I just pressed the forward slash for the fraction line, by the way, in case anyone's wondering that. Right, next one. Okay, so here's a quadratic where there's actually something we can do to make this a bit easier to begin with, by the way. Do you notice how every single term is divisible by 3? So you need to be looking for things like that where you can actually do something that makes it a bit simpler. So I'm actually going to start this one by dividing both sides of this equation by 3. This will leave me with 3x squared divided by 3 is x squared. And 6x when you divide it by 3 is 2x. And 9 when you divide it by 3 is 3. So I'm just dividing everything by 3. Now I guess I would take away 2x and take away 3 to make 0. Okay, so there you go. I'm solving this equation. An alternative, which I'll put over here, is you could have just started with this. And you could still divide both sides by 3, right? You get x squared minus 2x minus 3, and 0 divided by 3 is still 0. So you would actually get the same as down here. If you really didn't want to divide by 3, though, you'll still end up with the same answers, right? We've got 3x and x. And Well, let's solve this one first, and then we'll use that answer to work out what this would have been. This will be x and x, and then minus 3 and plus 1. So I've got x minus 2x is minus 2x. So this could be 3x plus 3 and x minus 3. This would give you this. It could have also been x plus 1 and 3x minus 9. If you actually notice, they give you the same thing, and it's because you can bring a factor of 3 out. So here I can take it out of this bracket. Here I could have taken it out of this bracket, and I'd just end up with this sort of, these two brackets here. So, you know, if I do the expansion, 3x times x is 3x squared. 3x minus 9x is minus 6x, and minus plus 3 times minus 3 is minus 9. So certainly this one works. This one also works. X times 3x is 3x squared, and we have 3x minus 9x. So actually this one doesn't work. Oh no, it does work, sorry. It does work. 3x, take away 9x is minus 6x. I don't know what I was thinking about there. Apologies for that. And 1 times minus 9 is minus 9. Yeah, exactly. So, if you actually did all of the... You know, you could have picked any of these. And my preference would be to have divided by 3 to begin with, because it makes it easier. You're either going to get x is minus 1, or you're going to get x is 3. Okay, so this is what we're going to type into Hegarty. Notice you'll get the same over here. This would be x is minus 1, and this would be x is 3. Or this would be x is minus 1, and this would be x is 3. So there's a bit of flexibility. My recommendation is if you can divide through by a number, then you should divide through by that number. So I would just divide everything through by 3. And be solving this because it's a bit easier. Okay, so anyway, x is either minus 1 or x is 3, so we need to type that in. Right. Okay, let's have a look at this one. So this one here, with a bit of experience, because maybe right on the face of it, it doesn't even look like a quadratic equation. I mean, it doesn't look like, for example, it doesn't look like this, does it? Or it doesn't look like this standard format. But what you've got to think is if you expanded these brackets, you'd have an x squared and you'd have a 2x. And if you took away 35, you would then have a quadratic written in the standard format. Now you can actually get one of the solutions by observation, by just having a good guess. Look at the number 35. There's a really obvious factor pair that gives 35, and that is 5 times 7. If x was 5, then this bracket here would be 5 plus 2, which is 7, and you'd have 5 times 7. So by observation, I'm just going to write this down. By observation, x equals 5 is our solution. Right, and that's because 5 times 5 plus 2 is 5 times 7, which is 35. Can we easily see another solution? Because it's a quadratic, so it could very easily have 2 solutions. Can we spot what the other solution is? No, perhaps not easily. Perhaps not easily. I actually think it's going to be minus 7. And the reason I think it's going to be minus 7 is because if you do minus 7 times what will be minus 5, you'll get 35. So I could also write down x is minus 7 is another solution. So actually what I could do is I could now go into Hegarty and just type in 5 and minus 7 and it would be correct. However, I need to show you, because maybe it doesn't just equal something like 35. If it equaled, say it equaled 32, then we're probably going to get something a lot trickier, and we'd need to, like decimals, and we'd need to have a better method for working it out. And so the method is to make it look like this standard format. So we want to expand these brackets and then take away 35 so that it'll be a quadratic equals 0. Okay, that's always the aim. You want to make it a quadratic equals 0. So I'll start by expanding the bracket. So x squared plus 2x is 35. Then I'll take away 35. So x squared plus 2x minus 35 is 0. And then this factorizes as x plus 7 and x minus 5. See, because 7 times minus 5 is minus 35, and 7 add minus 5 is positive 2. So this means that either x is minus 7 or x is 5, but of course these are the answers that we observed. Like we could guess those answers, right? But it's good to see that we actually get the same answers if we apply the proper method, okay? So minus 7 and 5 is what we're going to type in. Okay, next one. Okay, so again, we could probably like observe. I mean, this looks like 9 times 8, so x is 9 is going to be a solution. But let's not get let's actually use the proper the proper method. Okay, so I'm going to expand out and collect everything to make it equal 0. Okay, so x squared minus x. I'm going to do minus 72. I'm going to do all of that in one go, and I'm going to write equals 0. Okay, and so this is what x minus 9. X plus 8 equals 0, because minus 9 times 8 is minus 72, and minus 9 add 8 is minus 1. So this is x is 9 or x is minus 8. Did I type it in wrong? Oh, 9 or minus 8. Oh, what am I doing? Okay, so I guess we're getting on to these really tricky ones, but hopefully you have an idea of what we're expecting to do now. What we want is we want this to, there's some work to do. We want to rearrange it so it looks like this. Something x squared plus something something x squared plus something x plus something equals 0. This is not what this looks like. For a start, there's a number here, then there's a double bracket, and then there's a plus 3. So there's some work to do. But all we're actually going to do is expand all of this out, simplify it all, and then it's going to be a standard quadratic equals 0. That's what we want, okay? So I'm going to do a grid method on 4x plus 1 and x minus 1. So I have 4x squared, x minus 4x and minus 1. So I get 4x squared minus 3x minus 1. But I've got 2 of those, right? I've got double that. So I'm going to write 8x squared minus 6x minus 2. So that's this part here. That's this part. And then I've still got the plus 3, haven't I? Right, that's obviously this part. So okay, there's a little bit of work still to do. We've got to combine these. So that's just plus 1. So 8x squared minus 6x plus 1 is 0. And then we've got to work out how this factorizes. Since it's got a times to make +1, but it's going to end up adding, like, the combination is going to add up to make -6. It's going to have to be -1 and -1. So it's actually easier to start there. And then we can just check, is it 8x and x, or is it 4x and 2x? So if you think about it, it's 4x and it's 2x, right? Because we'll have -4x and -2x, so we'll have -6x. So we have 4x and we have 2x. So this is 4x is 1, so x is a quarter. Or 2x is 1, so x would be a half. So I'm going to put a quarter and a half in. And then last one. Right, let's just do this quickly. So this is 12x squared plus 8x plus 3x plus 2 minus 3 equals 0. You might need to take a bit more time to do this, but you know how to do this, that's the point. So I'm not going to take ages about it. So this is 12x squared plus 11x minus 1 is 0. It's going to have to be like a double bracket, and it's going to have to be, oh, it's not clear, is it? 12x and 1 will give me plus 12x minus 1x will give me plus 11x. So I think it's this, right? 12x squared minus an x and a 12 and plus a 12x is plus 11x and then minus 1. So x is a 12th or x is minus 1. Right, yeah, I'd like you to have a go at this task. Either redo it because you found it really hard first time, or do it now for the first time. If any of the questions that come up are the same as the questions in this video, don't use this video as a ways of cheating. I'd like you to be able to recover the solutions yourself. I'd like you to do the working out on a piece of paper at home, knowing that you have done it yourself. Okay, that's really, really important. The key message is, if you are solving a quadratic equation, you want to do a better preparation on it. Okay, you want to prepare it to be solved. It needs to be sort of, you know, if there are brackets, if it doesn't equal 0 already, whatever it might be, you want to make sure it is written in the standard form. The standard form is something x squared, something x, and something equals 0. And then you can factorize it. Or if it doesn't factorize, we've got these other methods which we will learn about. But of course, in this task, they all factorize. Right, hopefully that's helped. See you later.